Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everyone. Glad you could join me here today for our Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday, where I can't wait to bring to you some brand new research. You know I love being able to read the research for you and take only the most important nuggets, be able to share that with you that I believe will have true real-world application as well. Now, this study I find to be kind of the holy grail of what we look for in terms of losing weight while not decreasing your metabolism. Because most people are literally fasting away their metabolism or dieting away their metabolism. Now, you know I'm a huge advocate of intermittent fasting. The problem is it's typically not being done well. I've talked about that on my previous intermittent fasting shows, who intermittent fasting is right for and how long based on the individual. You can check out all of those shows by going to stephencabral.com/podcast. Just scroll through the images at the top, click on the one that says intermittent fasting. There's a bunch of shows that takes you A to Z through the proper way to intermittent fast based on your body type and also where you're at right now with your overall health. So here's the thing. Most people, it's literally a race to the bottom. So they fast too long or at the wrong times of the day, or they drop their calories too low. And yes, they lose weight, but then they plateau after 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And the reason why that is, even though they have more body fat to lose, is because they've lowered the metabolic rate, which means on a typical daily basis, maybe they needed 1,500 calories in order to meet their, let's just say, basal metabolic rate or resting metabolic rate, however you want to look at it. But now, because of basically putting their body into what it believes is starvation mode, and I'm kind of using that and I would just say like air quotes right now, because it's not exact, but close enough. They're putting their body in a state of, let's say, hypothyroid or lower metabolic rate. Now the body only needs 1,250 calories, right? So now it's like, whoa, we just dropped 250 calories, the body did, in order to conserve essentially energy, because energy is how the body is surviving through the central nervous system, autonomic nervous system, etc., of how the body literally uses energy for both the brain and body. So that is why I always say be careful with the nutrition choices and diet choices that you make. And today I want to share with you a new research or a study that people, I would say many of my colleagues and I have known about for decades. And the reason why isn't because I think that, you know, we have any special power or any special cognitive ability. It's just that when you run a clinical practice, I really believe this, you have to get it right. And here's why. So think about this. You run a doctor's office or a naturopath's office or a integrative health practitioner office or a personal training studio. And people are coming to you to either get healthy, get well, lose weight, or live longer, whatever it might be. And let's say you don't do your job, right? Meaning like your job is to help them reach their goals. So let's say you don't help them reach their goals. Do you think they will ever refer anyone to you? The answer is no, right? Why would they refer someone to you when you didn't help them get to their goals? They're not going to put their name on the line saying like, oh, go see this person. They haven't helped me, but maybe they'll help you. Not too many people do that, right? So when you get referrals and you start to build a practice, most people aren't doing like advertising or big things like that. It's word of mouth. And so that's really the best way to build a practice, is because it's word of mouth. You get people results and then they say, hey, you're looking for this result? Go to see this person. And that's why it's really important to understand that, because a lot of times what's happening in clinical practice is that the clinicians know what works before it's published in the scientific data, right? And before it's ever put in a textbook. Because basically it goes like this. Practitioner gets results for client. Other people hear about it. Then it gets put through research, right? Scientific, rigorous research studies like the one I'm going to be talking about here today. And then when that has been published, then they'll typically do follow-on studies. And when those have been done, then they make their way to the textbooks. We often say it's somewhere between 10 and 20 years between what practitioners are doing, between when it shows up in the textbooks. It doesn't take that long to get in the science, the actual research, but it does to get in the textbooks, which is why, again, as long as a practitioner is doing things the healthy way, they may be ahead of the curve. Again, just putting that out there. It's not always the case, but putting it out there. So what I'm saying is many practitioners have been doing this for years, but it's finally starting to catch on. And you're going to see what I am saying in a moment. And many people that have been a part of this community and other communities as well, it's not just ours, have been doing this, and some people have not. And so if you have friends, family members that are doing the wrong thing, share with them the right thing, because this is, as I said, this is like the holy grail that everyone's looked for. It's like, how do you boost your metabolism, which means actually like burn more calories during the day and still lose body fat? Meaning like you didn't do anything extra. Right? It does not just from exercise, right? This is from just nutrition. So let's go over it right now. Okay, the study, I'm going to link up today at stephencabral.com/2232. In case you are a practitioner and you want to go a little bit deeper, or you're just someone that loves to read the research. This is a 21-page paper. Again, I've already read it for you. You don't have to if you choose not to. This one, what is this? Published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. The article name is The Comparison of the Effects Between Continuous and Intermittent Energy Restriction. So continuous energy restriction, I'll explain what that means, and intermittent energy restriction in short-term body weight loss for sedentary people. That means this is your typical American, right, or Westerner. They're not at the gym. They're not exercising beyond their normal, just regular walking. So again, it's pretty sedentary. And this worked, right? So it works whether you're exercising or not. Again, that's impressive. Okay, so let's get into it. So there's a nice little excerpt. So so the thing about me when I do research, I like to corroborate between multiple takes on this. And there was a nice take, and this is written by Dr. Jennifer Greer. I don't know who she is, but she's a naturopathic doctor. And so I always like to give shout outs to people. And she did a nice little excerpt. So here's the excerpt. She wrote, 2 strategies employed by athletes for weight reduction are continuous energy restriction, which is reduced calorie intake by the same amount every day, and intermittent energy restriction, which is IER, which is reduced caloric intake for 5 days with 2 days of higher carbohydrate or calorie intake. So let me just explain what that means. So continuous energy restriction, CER, means someone goes on a diet and they decrease their food intake every single day of the week by 500 calories. All right. And then other people with intermittent energy restriction means that they're going to restrict that from anywhere from 1 to 4 days. Okay. So it's not just 5 days and then 2 days of higher food. That's not what it is. So I know that she wrote that, but in this particular study, the IER, so the intermittent energy restriction, was 1 to 4 days of calorie restriction, alternating with cheat days. This is important. I'm going to share this in just a moment. This is really important, that part. Okay. So in previous studies, while both strategies reduced fat mass, so body fat mass and body weight, only the intermittent energy restriction retained fat-free mass and resting metabolic rate at completion. Intermittent energy restriction by athletes is also less likely to result in adverse physiologic effects, such as loss of menstrual function, bone mass, and immune function, as well as negative cardiovascular effects and decreased protein synthesis. This is also huge. So let me break down what this means. So what happens is when you go on a diet and you reduce your calories by 500 calories typically or more per day, you're losing body weight. There's no doubt about it. But you're losing a lot of muscle mass. That's detrimental. What does that do? It decreases the amount of calories you can take in per day. Just in simplest terms. Less muscle, you burn less calories. That means if you're taking the same amount of calories, you start to add body fat. I've done many intermittent fasting podcasts on exactly this, which is extremely important because people that are doing 16-hour fasts and they're skipping breakfast, the weight that they're losing is predominantly muscle. And I back that up in the research. Now, there's one little change, just one tiny little change that you need to make, and then you can still do that 16-hour fast. And check out my podcast on that as well. Okay. So the interesting thing is you can still reduce calories intermittently and lose the same amount of body weight, but the predominance is actually fat. So you're not losing the muscle. And that's important because you keep your metabolism elevated and you don't have to deal with the amenorrhea, the dysregulated menstrual function, loss of bone mass. Why are you losing bone mass? Because you're catabolic, right? You're losing bone mass because you're not exercising with weights. There's no resistance there. And you're in a depleted state. You've reduced calories every single day, right? And that obviously hurts the immune system too. All right. So this study now specifically goes into continuous energy restriction versus the intermittent. And the participants were between ages 18 and 60, overall good health. The participants were randomized to either the calorie restricted, 500 calories less per day, or the intermittent energy restriction, which is 1 to 4 days of calorie restriction alternating with cheat days. Body weight and resting metabolic rate were measured at baseline in the completion of the 4-week dietary intervention. Okay, real interesting results. Let me share with you what happened. So the group that reduced their calories each day by 500 calories, in longer term studies, more than 4 weeks, they actually began to drop muscle mass and metabolic rate, like the 12-week study that I just cautioned on. Now, the intermittent group actually lost more body fat, didn't lose muscle mass, and kept their metabolism elevated. And they did this without even adding exercise, which is what is most impressive, because if you add exercise, it helps all of this. And by exercise, I actually mean a few days of weight training per week. And here's the other big thing. This is what we've been doing and talking about for many, many years. The best thing to do is 1 day to 2 days a week of a down day. That is a day of restricted nutrition or calories. I'm going to link up a podcast for you today because it's a whole separate show called the 1 Day Reset Diet. It's very, very simple. It's 24 hours from Sunday night at dinner to Monday night at dinner. You still eat dinner. And then I talk about what you can do during the day there. If you're a beginner, you're going to do, I'll teach you on that podcast exactly what to do. You do that once a week to twice a week. You are not going to decrease your metabolism. A lot of people who do our detox or Equal Life Detox worry that they're going to drive their thyroid or their metabolic rate down. They won't. And here's why. They're going to do 2 days maximum of the intermittent fast. 5 days, they're going back to good, solid nutrition, and they repeat that the next week. Now, here's the interesting thing. We only do that for 3 weeks maximum because we know after 4 weeks, metabolism really starts to dip. So what do we do after 3 weeks? Here's the most interesting part. We use in this, they call it a cheat meal, right? But we call it a flex meal. Flex meal because you don't want to call it like, oh, I'm cheating on my diet. No, you're just enjoying the flex meal. That flex meal it can be healthy, but it has to increase in one macronutrient, and that's carbohydrates. Fat's not going to do it for the metabolism. Protein's not going to do it for the metabolism. It can, but it does it by actually increasing glucose in the body, or glycogen stores at least. So you say, oh, I don't want to eat like pasta and bread. No problem at all. Have more sweet potatoes, have more yams, have more fruit, have more carbs that day. And what that does is it actually helps to restore leptin and ghrelin levels. It tells the body that it's not starving. This is one of the greatest diet manipulations or so-called biohacks that nobody's talking about. And again, I had to have learned this from someone. I'm sure I didn't make it up. I'm sure I didn't. But I've been using this now for over 20 years in my practice, and it works phenomenally well. Whether people are doing our CBO protocol or our Fatlocity weight loss system or our 21-day Equal Life Functional Medicine Detox, it's 21 days. And then again, because I've seen this on stress hormone, mood, and metabolism tests that you can do right at home to test your thyroid and cortisol levels, we get in that flex meal once a week. So once a week, they're eating a higher carb, whatever meal they would like. And then once a week in the beginning, they're having a down day. So typically, a lot of times in our community, people will be doing a higher carb, so-called cheat meal of whatever foods they would like on Friday night. Then Saturday is normal eating. Sunday is normal eating. They're kind of recovering from that big cheat meal. And then on Monday, so Sunday night, they stop eating. Let's say it's 5 or 6 o'clock at night. Then they go the whole next day on a special 1 day reset diet until 5, 6 o'clock that next day. And then at dinner, Monday night, they can eat again. That's 24 hours. Some people do that twice a week, never back-to-back days, unless you're doing a quarterly, once a quarter functional medicine detox, and then you're purposely doing that to get deeper into autophagy. But again, all of this is it's backed up by science. It works in the real world. And I just want you to take advantage of this because there's so much that goes into this. It's unbelievable as you peel back the onion of what it does for destroying cancer cells inside of the body, keeping metabolism high, balancing hormones, balancing neurotransmitter levels, helping with healthy levels of blood sugar. I mean, there's so much that goes on with this. It's unbelievable. But if you have a friend or family member or coworker right now that's just going low calorie, reducing their calories by 500 calories per day, not only is it not the best way to lose weight, it's going to lower the metabolism in the long run. Have them follow a nutrition plan that is based on intermittent energy restriction, where they have high and low days or just normal and low days. That is going to lead to the greatest results. Combine that with a little bit of exercise, a little bit of weight training, you're going to have the best of all worlds. So hopefully this was helpful today. I will link up the research again at StephenCabral.com/2232. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my health results accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to StephenCabral.com/courses.